Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And boy, 2024 was certainly a year of some variety.
Yes, it was. Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hopefully you didn't party too hard.
And hopefully those bullets you fired up didn't come down on you.
Yeah. But yeah, we appreciate everybody who's coming out to watch us. If you are returning, welcome back. If you're new, what we usually do is we review stuff. We look at usually something new or contemporary, followed by something older or classic. Occasionally one or both of us will have something solo to talk about. But this show, we've doing something a little unique since the year 2024 is now in the rearview mirror. We wanted to go back and look at some of our past movies and stuff that we reviewed, and tell you that what we recommend that you should check out. So,
right, and these aren't in any particular order, and also these aren't a top 20 or top 10 movies of 2024 or anything like that, because we don't usually make a point of watching new stuff unless it directly appeals to us. So we tend to watch more movies that are. Let's see. I think the oldest movie we ever reviewed was The Man Who Came to Dinner from the 30s, or maybe no, early 40s.
Yeah, early 40s. Yeah. I think that is the oldest movie we've ever reviewed. Yeah.
But so it didn't really make sense. Like, how do you? In the year 2024, it's already weird enough if you're making a top 10 list, you're having to decide, well, which one do I like better? Do I like which one do I like better? Do I like Garfield better, or do I like Dune 3 better, or Dune 2 better? Just like no point of comparison at all, right?
Right. Yeah.
So and since we're taking that and we're expanding it to cover all the decades of film that we've looked at, these are instead just sort of, hey, if you've slept on these movies, they're worth a shot.
Indeed, yes. And we'll get us started off here with, what do you mean I'm funny? What do you mean am I funny? Am I a clown? I amuse you?
That is at once a very good and very bad Pesci.
Yeah, yes, I
know. Yeah. So this is one of those movies that Goodfellas got New Year's resolution. Always make sure we actually say the name of the movie.
Yes.
We say it. Better say it twice and 0th times.
Yes.
So, Goodfellas, the classic Martin Scorsese picture from the early 90s. It's one of those movies that looms large in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Simpsons episodes, a whole series of cartoons about pigeons on Animaniacs back in the day.
Yeah. Yes, referenced in many movie and TV show. Yeah.
Yep. And occasionally we'll go back and look at a classic and go, what were they thinking, or why did this catch on? Absolutely no question about how this one looms so large in the public consciousness, because it is a weird movie because it is about objectively awful people who you almost find yourself liking because they're just kind of 60% comedic.
Yeah.
Is the tone I'd give it.
Yeah, that's it. That's about right. It's to compare it to another Martin Scorsese movie, very much like The Wolf of Wall Street. Kind of in the same vein, where it's like, you've got a main character who is objectively a really bad guy, but you somehow find yourself rooting for him.
Yeah, just the difference is that where that one was more obsessed with sex and money, this was there was a little bit of sex, but it was way more about just brutal mob violence.
Yes, yeah, and money too. Money in there. Yeah,
it always comes down to the money.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and of course, great performances by everybody in there, from the late Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. Yeah, uh, yeah, just all around really, really great movie.
Yep. Now it's definitely one. It's not one for the squeamish. But if you're squeamish and looking at a classic mob movie, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah,
Maybe not everything is for you.
yeah, yeah.
Next up, and again, these are in no particular order.
Yeah.
Transformers 1.
Yes, a movie that deserved to do a lot better in the theaters.
Yeah, it
Certainly,
was unfortunately hobbled by a bad marketing campaign, an
yeah,
animation style that brought the budget down, but does unfortunately look a bit kiddish.
yeah, yeah. And I would say, and the plot is not really kiddish if you think about it. I mean, it's it
No,
deals with some pretty heavy themes.
right, like being being lied to by your government, um, the breakdown of friendships and brotherhood, some rather violent scenes, which are
Yeah,
only this thing only squeaks away with a PG rating because it's robots. So
yeah. Yeah, and I would say certainly the best Transformers movie since the first Michael Bay one.
yeah, you know what? I was about to maybe throw Bumblebee into the
Oh, Bumblebee,
conversation,
yeah.
but hey, D Rhino.
Hey, Rhino. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm going to put this ahead of Bumblebee in my personal ranking, just because
Yeah.
Bumblebee had a few odd moments, and the fact that it was kind of nice just to have a Transformers movie without all the little humans messing things up.
Yeah. Yeah. The only negative I have with this movie was the very cringy Marvel-esque humor.
Yeah, what I could tell you is that I was in the theater. Yeah, I actually went to go see this in the movies or at the theater one day when I was just kind of bored.
Yeah.
The kids in the audience laughed at those jokes, so it worked for the target audience.
But yeah, anyone over the age of 12 would probably just be, oh, come on.
Right, or maybe like have a couple fewer ones.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Especially in the back half, though, this movie goes serious and goes hard.
oh yeah, it does. Yeah. What else was I gonna say about it? But yeah, I think it's a really good, also a really good origin story for how the Transformers were, how the two factions separated with,
Mhm.
the Autobots and the Decepticons. With the Autobots basically being they were like the workers, that were toiling underground mining for energon, and then the Decepticons were the old military, the old high guard. And then you had Megatron, formerly D16, who's he sort of reminded me of like certain I don't know if I can say their names on here without getting in trouble with YouTube, but
Are these related to World War II?
No, not World War II. Latin American revolutionaries.
Oh, from the island of Cuba, or
Yes, from the island of Cuba.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's kind of who Megatron reminded me of. I don't know if that was intentional or.
Yeah. Either way, it shows you it's interesting to see the path of somebody with good intentions getting broken by having their worldview shattered.
Yeah,
it's like a nice one bad day type scenario.
It is, yeah, yeah. And Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime was an interesting choice.
He worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Also, what's his name from Key and Peele as no, it wasn't from Key and Peele. Who was it as Megatron again?
The guy from Bullet Train.
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. The guy from Key and Peele was
Bumblebee.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Megatron's voice acting performance was amazing in that one. So kudos to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess he didn't have to talk about Thomas the Tank Engine because in this one he was the train.
Yes. But yeah, definitely give this one a watch. We should probably mention Goodfellas is on Max. This one is on Transformers 1 is on Paramount Plus.
Yep. Coming in, and again, this is in no particular order. We have The Sting, which is another one of those classic movies where even if you've never heard of it, you watch it and probably at least some sort of parody suddenly makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a King of the Hill episode that was kind of a parody of this.
Yep, with Peggy taking on the role of our what do you call it? Our shysters.
Yeah, grifters, shysters. Yeah.
Yep.
Con men.
Con men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The movie was follows Robert Redford, who he gets with he's like kind of like a low level con artist, and his partner gets killed by Robert Shaw's character, and so Redford teams up with Newman to, they set up this elaborate con involving horse racing, betting on horse races, and it's it's kind of one of those movies that it's got a lot of twists and everything, and you're not entirely sure what's going to happen next. It's very much a what do I want to say? Very much a thrilling movie. Yeah.
Yep.
Trying to think. Yeah, and another movie with great performances from Paul Newman and Robert Redford. I believe this was after Butch and Sundance. I think Butch and Sundance was like, so this one was like what, 73, I think.
73 sounds right. Maybe 74.
Yeah. I think Butch and Sundance was like 70 or 71. So yeah. I think our one complaint about this movie was that there weren't enough scenes with Redford and Newman.
Right, at least not with them together.
Yeah.
Redford was in really good shape at the time because I swear that half the movie was him running away from things for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
at a time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was Tom Cruise before Tom Cruise.
Yep.
Well, yeah. We watched it on Netflix, but I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah, I think we rushed in before it left, so you have to do your own research for this one.
Yeah,
or it's worth a rent.
Yeah.
I can say I mentioned this at work, and one of my older coworkers was immediately enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
Statistically, if you were interested in this movie, you've probably already seen it. But just in case you haven't.
Yes. Watch it. Yeah. I would say I like this one better than Deadpool 2. Maybe even more than Deadpool 1, actually, now that I think about it.
Ooh, that's Deadpool 1 has more heart. This one is like made for the frustrated comic book fan.
Yeah.
Or comic movie fan, because it parodies the whole state of the MCU at the moment. And yet it's also kind of a touching send-off to that Fox era of superhero movies.
Yeah, because there were some great cameos in there from Chris Evans playing Johnny Storm, Wesley Snipes Blade, Jennifer Gardner Elektra, which I forgot to mention that in the review. I thought it was really funny when they mentioned that the Ben Affleck Daredevil died, and Deadpool looks at Elektra and is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She's like, "It's okay." Because for those of you who probably don't know, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner were married in real life for a few years, and then they got divorced. So,
yeah, he just keeps bouncing between the Jennifers, it seems.
Yeah. but and of course there was a Channing Tatum's Gambit, which they, for those of you who don't know, Fox has been toiling for like over a decade to try to get a Gambit movie made with him.
It just did not work out.
No, but yeah, this was a fun movie, and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman play off of each other really well. And this version of Wolverine was really interesting because he was, I guess he was, if I remember correctly, he was like indirectly or directly responsible for the death of all of the X-Men in his universe. So he has this bit of a redemption arc that he has to go through, and
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say is that it's a story that works on a comedic level and a feels level. As soon as you
Yeah.
start thinking about it for any length of time, you kind of realize that it's kind of nonsense, but
Yeah.
that's okay. So sometimes it's okay to eat cotton candy.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and should be no secret that this was one of, if not the highest grossing movie last year.
That honor goes to Inside Out too.
Oh, Inside Out too. Okay.
But that had the unfair advantage of kids could get into that movie without parent involvement.
Right. Yeah. This movie. No. This movie is a
Hard
hard
R.
hard R. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Now, to follow up on the list, so there were a couple of these that we originally came up with like a top 3 independently. Two of them were on both of our lists before we talked it out. One was Goodfellas, and the other one was our last movie you need to check out if you haven't yet, Unforgiven.
yes. Which I believe we reviewed this the same night as Goodfellas.
That was a good week, man.
That was, yeah.
That isn't just recency bias. I looked over our year in review, and there really wasn't anything that was better than these two.
No, it really wasn't. Yeah, this was a movie that I had been meaning to watch for a while, and then the time was right to sit down and watch it, and I'm glad we did. This, I mean, I will say neither one of us are really huge Western fans.
I'll watch a Western movie, but it's not like I go out of my way to consume it intentionally.
Yeah, same here. But this movie had always been on my radar because it was considered one of Clint Eastwood's best movies. He not only was he the star of the movie, he was also the director. He is essentially it kind of reminded me of a movie we did last year, The Shootist, which was John Wayne's last movie. Kind of both of those characters in both of those movies have similarities to them, where they're these old gunslingers who were looking for one more chance at glory, or one more chance at whatever, making a difference. And this movie, I think, really not just does that, but also probably one of the few westerns that actually shows just how rough living in the old West back then really was, and how it wasn't necessarily just one of the themes of the movie was that stories about people tend to get exaggerated over time, but exaggerated by a bunch of people. And it's easy to see that happening given the era and the technology of the era. Because you have to keep in mind there was no internet, there were no computers, there was no television or anything like that.
You couldn't get an actual photograph or anything.
Right. Yeah. And so whenever eyewitnesses would see something like a gunfight or whatever, they'd be like, oh, just they'd exaggerate it. And that was kind of a theme of this, is just everybody's deeds getting being blown out of proportion.
Right. Like the whole inciting incident, by the time that Clint Eastwood's character was hearing about it, it went from a woman was cut on the face a few times and was scarred to her being horribly dismembered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting because at the end of the day, was anything really accomplished? Well, that's up for the readers, or that's for the viewer to decide.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
This one is
but
also streaming on Max, being another Warner Brothers film.
yes. And it won a bunch of Oscars for a reason.
Mhm.
So definitely want to highly recommend checking it out. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So now that we've kind of cleared away the old, just wanted to mention that how grateful we are that we've seen an increase in our performance this year,
Yes.
or I should say last year. We managed to crack 100 subs and then kept going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, now part of it is we stepped up our thumbnail game
Yeah.
under advice from a actually a Dragon Ball YouTuber I know by the name of Laughing Stock Media. If you have any interest in Dragon Ball in general, I would check his channel out. He does very nice analytical takes on the series.
Yeah.
But he gave me some suggestions for making the thumbnails better, and so started making thumbnails for the videos, and it seemed to help.
Yes. Yeah. And also I think having a clear focus for what our channel is and what we what we're our objective is, I think also helped as well.
Right. Like
Because
we're not, we decided to stop talking so much about whatever the current outrage was because it's not like we have any insiders. We had opinions, but it's not like they were radically different than 100 other channels.
yeah, and in all honesty, we're having more fun doing this than we were talking about stuff that was making us mad.
Indeed. Now, some movies can make us mad, um,
Yeah,
but that's more interesting because we learn more about what we value in storytelling.
indeed. Yes.
Like Daniel, for example, stories need endings.
Yes.
Take some notes, Kubo.
Yes. Yeah. So you had seen this movie before. I hadn't. With Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, I actually saw this in the theater back in the day.
yeah. Um, I remember seeing I think I remember seeing the commercials for it, and then I just kind of like didn't pay much mind to it because I'll be honest, like never really been one for stop motion. Um, but I've kind of gained a certain appreciation for it with some of the other movies we've watched, like Corpse Bride, and was there another one we watched? I can't remember. We didn't watch.
We let's see here. Together we watched Corpse Bride,
Yeah.
which is actually by the same studio as this, so you can see what 15 years of refinement of their style brought them.
Yes, indeed, and it's and I will say, watching this movie, I didn't feel like I was watching a stop motion.
No, okay. I should clarify. I don't believe that they were Leica Studios at the time of at the time of the Corpse Bride, but it was like the seed that studio became Leica,
Oh, okay.
as memory serves. But yeah, no, like so. Yeah, usually we don't talk about special effects before we get into the story, but
Yeah,
holy crap, this thing is amazing. Like okay,
yeah,
you know that there's some computer enhancement for some of it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, like there are lots of magical effects. There are things like they have these origami birds flying around in a huge flock. You know that they had to do something CGI infused to make certain things work.
yeah,
But
yeah,
holy crap. Like if you told me that this was a CGI movie, this would still be decent effects for an all CGI movie.
yeah, yeah. It would be. Yeah, it's yeah. The effects are the animations just really mind blowing, and yeah, that was what stood out to me the most with this movie. Um, the story's all right.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I guess we should get to the plot of the movie.
I, At some point, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, so the movie centers on Kubo and his mother. Uh, we first meet them when she is on this little boat uh, in the middle of a tsunami, and then they get washed ashore. And we see Kubo as a baby, and he's missing his left eye, and that's a kind of an important plot point. Um, and then we flash forward. What do we say about what like
12 years or so.
12? Yeah, 12 years. Um, and Kubo and his mom are living in this uh, cave on top of a mountain, and Kubo spends his days entertaining the people in this village with his magical shamisen, where he can make origami just from playing the music.
Right. That's one of the conceits of this movie is that his powers are he can play his stringed instrument and bring paper to life.
Yeah, and as DB pointed out, there was a he tells this story of this samurai named Hanzo, and going up and he's battling this the Moon King, and he throws in all these little cool little parts of the story, but then unfortunately he never gets to the ending, like he never
Right.
ends the story.
And I think there's two reasons for that. The
Mm,
boring, pragmatic reason is that he embellishes his story too much. So sundown is coming, and because he is the grandson of the Moon King, his mother's one rule for him is you can never be outside under the moon.
yeah.
Uh, the second reason is more that he doesn't know what the ending is because he just feels kind of alone and adrift. His whatever his mother went through, she is not all there.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, in the storm scene, she gets caught under the water and she hit her head on a rock, and so I guess it's implied that she suffered some sort of brain injury, and so
Mhm.
her memory is not all there. That's kind of almost like a form of dementia, I think.
That's how it seems to function.
Yeah,
Like it's very. This movie can hit you in the feels pretty hard, pretty regularly, because
yeah,
it's like she'll be in the middle of telling him a story, and then she'll just trace like, what about your father?
yeah.
Uh, or Kubo, what happened to your eye?
Yeah, 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 definitely hit you in the feels, especially if you've had family members who've dealt with that horrible disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so then one day during the festival, they have this thing where they light candles, or they pray to their deceased loved ones, and then it lights up the lantern, and then they put the lantern in the water to let them go back to the spirits go back to the afterlife. And
Yep.
so
And Kubo just can't resist participating this year.
right, and so he does that, and he's trying to talk to his father, but then nothing happens, and then unfortunately the sun goes down, and then the moon's out, and then that's when Kubo's evil ants show up.
Yep. Uh, And so he is forced to flee. His mother gives her life to save him, and he's now on a journey with a mixture of the creatures he made out of origami it, like the little charms that his mother would play with him with.
Yeah,
Uh,
and yeah,
so we really have three main characters. We have Kubo himself, who, like, just kind of a standard kid adventure character.
yeah,
He was cute.
yeah,
You have Monkey, voiced by Charlize Theron, who also voiced his mother.
yeah,
Um, this, and then you have what's his name, Matthew McConaughey as the Beetle Knight
yeah,
or Beetle Samurai, who they meet, who he believes that he was the follower of, or he was like the disciple of his father Hanzo.
Yeah. But his memory is just like not there anymore.
Nope. Now, what's interesting, in my opinion, about these dynamics is this is a 2016 movie, and it feels like it hasn't even been 10 years, but it feels like this was made in a different world, almost.
Yeah.
In the sense that you could kind of see the seeds of some of the issues we've talked about that some of the current Hollywood movies have.
Yeah.
But that's like I think it's done all right here.
Yeah, they in particular, there's one line where McConaughey says something like, "Well, that happened."
Yeah, exactly. Like, McConaughey is definitely participating in a bunch of Marvel humor.
Yeah.
Although this was before Marvel even got too deep into Marvel humor.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, or maybe around the same time. Yeah. Yeah, and
Let's see, what year did Guardians of the Galaxy come out?
oh, that was like 2014, I think.
Yep, 2014. Okay, so maybe that was part of the influence, because what I kept thinking watching this was that the interactions between Monkey and the samurai were so like Star-Lord and Gamora.
Yeah. Which it's kind of an important we'll get into spoiler talk later, but
yeah
there's a reason for that.
Right. And it's kind of funny to me how it's like if this movie had come out today and anybody bothered to review it, that people would be calling Monkey a girl boss.
Yeah.
Now, once you find out what Monkey's actual deal is, it makes some sense. But initially, it's like, okay, how is a macaque able to, like, why is the macaque better at wielding the sword than the samurai beetle and able to fight off these celestial space witches?
Yeah.
Their overall quest is they have to get the pieces of the invincible armor in order for Kubo to be able to fight off his grandfather, the Moon King.
Yes. Yeah. And the plot, it kind of has that. It has that video game plot, where they have to go through all these different trials.
Right. You have to collect the 3 things to level up enough to fight the Moon King.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so she would be a girl boss, and Matthew McConaughey is honestly kind of playing Matthew McConaughey. Like,
he's always playing Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Charlize Theron is having to act much harder.
Yeah.
She makes her various characters that she plays, and she plays a couple, feel distinct enough.
Yeah.
But coupled with honestly, just the animation of Kubo's mom, like just her face, like she is very expressive, considering that she has a bunch of like polystyrene and face motors and stuff like this. So pre-spoiler thoughts. If you like stop motion and you haven't seen this one, do yourself a favor. This is like god tier stop motion animation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It also scratches your weeb itch a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is based on any actual legend or if this is just people playing fast and loose with Japanese mythology, but it has the feel that I associate with that kind of story to it.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and my guess is it's an original story because I've never heard of it before. And interesting note, the director of the movie was Travis Knight, and he directed Bumblebee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say this is a at least moderate recommend. Like, okay, so Daniel was saying he's not the biggest fan of stop motion. For me, it's like, oh, there's stop motion in this movie that's good quality. You get an immediate 2 out of 10 adjustment for me.
Yeah.
If only because I kind of understand just how hard stop motion is to do.
Yeah.
So like I'm impressed enough by stuff like old school Harryhausen effects, like, and how they can integrate that into old movies and what have you. This
Yeah.
where you could have told me, oh no, actually Leica or Studio Leica switched over to entirely CGI for this movie and just emulated stop motion, I would have been disappointed, but I would have believed it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's seamless. Yeah. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of the uh the lack of motion blur. There's actually a little bit of motion blur in there, which is
Yeah, that's
pretty
impressive.
amazing. Yeah.
Now the unfortunate thing is this thing unfortunately was a bomb.
Mm.
So we probably aren't going to get much like it. The next movie that the studio made, which I haven't seen, seems to be much more of a simple comedy about finding a Sasquatch. So I guess they
Yeah.
kind of shot for the moon here, so to speak, and didn't quite make it.
Yeah. It's which is unfortunate. I mean, I would have. I mean, it would have been nice to see other movies like this, if
Yeah,
just for if nothing else, for the sake of variety.
I think what it kind of comes down to, unfortunately, is the tendency of American audiences to see cartoon and think, "Oh, it's just something mindless I could put my kids in front of." Where, a really small child, there's a lot of stuff that's upsetting in here.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
This isn't Minions 4, where it's not really going to challenge you at all.
yeah,
It is about dead parents, about in dead parents in a meatier way than most movies.
yeah,
Or kids movies, I should say. Um, it's it's about mortality. It's about there's a lot of scary monsters,
yeah. And the reason why Kubo is missing his left eye is very dark.
but it's also dark in a way that you might actually might just sail over the heads of small kids.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's get into a brief spoiler section.
Yes.
So since you just brought it up, let's cover why is his eye missing? What is his grandpa actually after?
Yeah. He's missing his eye because his grandfather took his eye, and and uh he wants Kubo because he wants to take his other eye, and that is because he wants Kubo to be was it blind to humanity.
Right. Like if he loses both eyes, he'll be perfect and ageless and unchanging and able to join the celestial kingdom.
Right. Yeah. And we get the backstory of the fact that with Kubo's mother was part of this like celestial kingdom, and she was sent down by her father, Kubo's grandfather, to kill Hanzo, this
Right.
samurai, and but Hanzo's as the kids would say, Hanzo's riz was strong.
You are my quest.
You are my quest, and that was all she needed to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you find out that, and you could kind of see this coming if you realized that Charlize Theron was voicing both Monkey and the mother.
Yeah.
The monkey is like, I don't know, the monkey is almost like the mom's Horcrux, I guess is how you could put it.
Yeah.
It's like a little piece of her that she's that like burns itself out trying to help Kubo with his quest.
Yeah. Or if you're a Star Trek fan, her Katra.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Which I mentioned before, why is this monkey able to be so girl bossy? Well, it's because she's literally one of the moon princesses and knows how her sisters fight. So it actually makes sense once you get down to it.
Yes. Yeah. And then you also find out that Beetle wasn't actually one of Hanzo's apprentices, or one of his soldiers or fellow samurai. He is Hanzo.
Yep, just cursed to be a big dumb beetle man.
Yeah. And when we talked about it before, the interaction between Beetle and Monkey was kind of like Star-Lord and Gamora. Well,
right. Semi-humorless girl boss with male himbo.
yes. And the reason that they're like, flirting with each other in many scenes. Well, then that makes sense now.
On some instinctive level, they recognize each other.
Yes, yeah.
Now, is it odd to see a long scene of a beetle and a snow macaque rizzing each other a little bit? Yes, it is slightly strange.
Yeah.
But it mostly works, especially once you find out what the actual heck is going on.
Yeah.
Also, so his Kubo's grandfather, he's a good villain. I kind of feel like the real problem, I think, that anytime you have a character who's defined to be emotionless, at least defined to be emotionless and unchanging, it then becomes like, okay, is anger not an emotion in this?
Yeah.
Because he does get angry. He can be possessive. So like I think that you're better off defining it as a lack of compassion more than anything. But that's a little bit of hair splitting.
Yeah. And
I will say the last fight scene with the grandfather is cool. Although he violated one of the rules from the old evil overlords list that used to circulate around the internet. I will never turn into a dragon or large snake to beat the hero. It never helps.
Yeah.
In this case, what the grandpa turns into is based on an ancient sea creature called the Dunkleosteus.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me pull up the picture here for the people at home. Let's see here. Now, of course, what's funny is that the Dunkleosteus probably didn't look quite this cool because real fish tend to have lips.
See, I'm glad you have knowledge and stuff like this, so that we can. It gives us more more insight into like what maybe the creators or the filmmakers were thinking when they were coming up with this stuff.
Yeah, Dunkleosteus is like a all-time great creature design.
Oh yeah, wow.
Now, of course, they've recently decided that they weren't quite that big, like much shorter and blunter.
Yeah.
And they probably had lips covering up their cool mouths, but the similarity is noticeable.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's just like a Dunkleosteus combined with a centipede.
Yeah.
Or millipede if you prefer. But
yeah.
So the movie ends. Kubo uses his magic. So basically, the magical artifacts he got to fight his grandfather didn't turn out to be all that useful.
Yeah.
The way he beats the grandpa is by giving him an eye and cursing him to be human, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably the one part of the movie that I didn't like was when the grandfather comes back, and of course he's a tabula rasa. He's just a blank slate.
Yep.
And everybody in the village is just kind of like, oh, you're a very kind man.
I am.
Yeah. And then you do, they're telling him about all the stuff that he does for them and everything. And then I guess it's implied that he and Kubo are, like going to be like living together now, which is just like, okay. I know he doesn't have any memory, but it's like, okay.
He's still kind of the one who killed your whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would agree. The ending is a little bit weak, but
yeah.
like again, this is like one of those. Story isn't necessarily its strongest point. It's good at emotional manipulation in a good way.
Yeah,
and it's good at it's pretty good at characterization, but it's worth watching just from a visual perspective.
Yeah. And speaking of the visual, and it just dawned on me the scene where they were getting the sword,
mm-hmm.
and they're fighting the giant skeleton. That was that was a marvel of filmmaking there. And of course, what got me is as soon as I saw that the giant skeleton, I'm like, wait a minute, that's the Human Reaper from Mass Effect 2. It looked just like it.
Well, the other thing I think it was supposed to invoke is this classic yokai picture.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Although this one had a whole bunch of swords sticking out of its head.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that scene is definitely one of the highlights from just a technical perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this one's on Netflix. At least I think it's still on Netflix.
Yeah, I think we managed to catch this one before it was being removed. So
Yeah.
if you haven't seen this movie and you don't mind a animated movie and your kids or if you have kids and they're old enough to deal with some dark themes, give it a go.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah.
And if you don't enjoy it, oh well, I guess you'll just have to live and learn.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I saw Sonic 3 in the theater with my buddy. And so for some reason, we don't really go to the movies very often, but we have made the Sonic movies part of our tradition. But, Sonic was the last movie we saw before lockdowns.
Yeah.
We saw Sonic 2 when the world was opening up a bit again. And so we went out and saw Sonic 3. Now, I recall mentioning when I reviewed the previous one that I have a lot of knowledge of the Sonic series, even for games that I haven't personally played much of, just because I used to be in this rabbit hole of basically bitter fans of the Sonic Adventure era who were unhappy about how Sega had taken the franchise. It's interesting to watch them kind of dissect the series from various angles.
Yeah, okay.
So when I was watching the previous movie, and it ended with a guy from the Shield equivalent gun saying that there was an incident 50 years ago, I said, "Oh no," because that's how long ago Shadow was in stasis.
Yeah.
So, okay, the world basically knows who Sonic the Hedgehog is, especially after the first two movies. The progression of these movies has been interesting because the first one is, I think you've seen at least the first one, right?
I've seen 1 and 2. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And the aborted, awful Knuckles TV show, but that's
yeah.
But so you can agree with this progression. The first one is very much like a classic '90s, relatively inexpensive tie-in movie.
Yeah.
Because it's mostly a road trip with Sonic and the Donut Lord. Sonic is the only all CGI character for the most part. He's the only one that has any sort of significant screen time.
Yeah.
And when you kind of get down to it, Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik looks nothing like the character.
At least not in the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just like a lot of weird elements. Like it's very enthusiastic about, or it's very focused on his cop buddy played by is he James Marsden?
Yeah, James Marsden. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, guy went from Cyclops to this, so
yeah.
But it was very interesting in his relationship with his wife. Like, so I think it was like a budget conscious thing where they didn't want to have too much of Sonic and too many characters of the same technical difficulty as Sonic, especially after they had to fix the CGI model.
Yes, because the infamous trailer where they first showed him and he just looked like, oh god,
yeah, nightmare fuel. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Second one was much more. It was like in keeping with the tone of the first one, but it was much more into the various furry characters. Like, you had Tails show up and be Sonic's buddy. You had Knuckles added as a villain antagonist who eventually teamed up with Sonic to fight Eggman.
Yeah.
But it still had like a big focus on the human storyline, probably to save budget.
Yeah.
Like, had the weird. Everybody I've talked about that movie agrees that the whole wedding sequence with Donut Lord's wife's sister was unnecessary. And honestly, the character is kind of an enormous stereotype of almost Michael Bay-ish proportions.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Um, this one really commits to having the characters on the screen as much as humanly possible at all times.
Okay, that's good.
Like, of course, there are going to be some scenes with the human characters where there isn't a hedgehog or a fox or an echidna around, but
Yeah.
It feels much more natural. So
Yeah.
in the aftermath of Sonic 2, Shadow the Hedgehog has been awoken from an old gun research facility where he's been kept in stasis for years. Now, one thing I noticed was weird is that he was being kept in a gun facility in Tokyo Bay,
Yeah.
but all of the gun personnel who were there were white or Indian. So I don't know what's up with that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's
B-
interesting.
But so Shadow breaks out, and the themes of the movie has like some very simple themes, but it executes them pretty well.
Yeah.
It's things like, if horrible things happen to you, how do you respond to it?
Mm.
Because early on, like Donut Lord, who it occurs to me if you haven't seen this movie, Donut Lord is the police officer who is Sonic's surrogate dad in this universe. Like
Yeah.
Sonic is very much, like, I'd say his emotional age is like 13 or so, except that he hasn't shown any interest in girls or anything like that.
Yeah. We'll wait till that one character shows up.
Oh God. um, but like, so Gun shows up to get his help, him and his buddies help fighting Shadow in Tokyo, and a deeper plot is uncovered with a secret gun super weapon. While while Dr. Robotnik apparently survived the previous movie, and he ends up tagging along at first before betraying them to team up with his 110-year-old grandfather. Here, his name is Gerald Robotnik. That's right.
Okay.
Who was involved with the facility that Shadow was kept at.
Okay.
Now, as far as, and it turns into our heroes versus Gun, the Shield equivalent, versus Shadow and the Robotniks, all trying to get the keys to get to this evil, or to this super weapon that can destroy the whole world.
Mm.
So what I was not quite expecting is this is a pretty faithful retelling of Sonic Adventure 2's plot. Now there are certain elements that they don't have in there. Like, there is no Rouge the Bat, there is no Amy the Hedgehog. Or I should say, there is no Amy the Hedgehog until maybe there might be an after credit scene. Blink. There are 2 after credit scenes, so I'm not going to spoil them too much, but they are very fan servicey, and they may set up a Sonic 4, or they may just not go anywhere. We'll have to see. But excuse me.
Sorry.
Had to cough there.
That's all right.
Okay. But as far as the actual storyline goes, again, very faithful retelling with the characters there, and they do a good job of really portraying Shadow as a dark mirror of Sonic, which sounds obvious, but the game plots don't actually usually do too good a job of that.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like that should be the obvious thing. Because honestly, like, every time Shadow shows up in something, he tends to have this weird tendency to become the real protagonist and make Sonic seem uninteresting, which is kind of funny when you get down to it.
Yeah.
Well, it's because Shadow has the dark backstory. Now in this one he wasn't a creation of Gerald Robotnik. He was another hedgehog they found in a meteor that fell from space. So it's unclear why he was there. It does make much more sense than, Dr. Gerald Robotnik, 50 years before Sonic showed up, just happened to decide to make the ultimate life form into a hedgehog shape for reasons.
Yeah.
Why? Shut up. That's why. So in this one, if he presumably is part of the same alien species as Sonic himself. So
Okay. Yeah.
um, and he was. They were doing research at this facility. Shadow became friends with Gerald's daughter Maria, who in this one she doesn't look quite as much like Alice in Wonderland, but not too far off.
Yeah.
But due to a misunderstanding and them thinking that Shadow was escaping, she ended up getting killed by gun soldiers. Shadow was put into stasis because he was kind of uncontrollable, and so when Shadow woke up, he swore bloody vengeance against all mankind.
Yeah.
And also, just because, yeah, when I say she looked like Alice in Wonderland,
she does. Wow. Jeez.
Now, as far as the cast goes, Jim Carrey is clearly having a lot of fun playing two different Robotniks teaming up.
Yeah.
In the original game, Gerald was long dead. In this one, it's like, well, we want to have two Jim Carreys here. Well, just lampshade the fact that he's 110 years old.
Yeah. And hey, Edwin, good to see you.
Hey, man.
Hey.
But Shadow is played by Keanu Reeves, who actually, okay, so he doesn't sound very much like any game version because Shadow always has this sort of anime edgy boy voice, where Keanu Reeves just kind of sounds like John Wick.
Yeah.
So, but he does a good job.
Yeah.
Like I said, it does that theme of choosing to be better than the world has been to you in a very nice, satisfying way. There are nice lines that are set up. Like Maria and Shadow are looking at the stars, and Maria says, "Oh, my dad was saying that that the stars are that the stars that we're looking at could have burnt out years ago, but we're still seeing their light." Which, of course, is an obvious reference to just because Maria is dead doesn't mean that she would want him to destroy the world, right?
Right. Yeah.
Where Gerald is very much in that sort of vengeance, burn them all attitude, and our Dr. Robotnik is much more of the "I thought we were here to conquer the world, not destroy it" attitude.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the spectacle goes, I immediately saw where there was like one fight scene where Shadow and Sonic both get to use the Master Emerald used in the previous movies to go Super Saiyan, basically. And it's like, damn, this is a better fight than what we got in Man of Steel. Like
Ooh.
Dragon Ball style CGI action for like 5 minutes straight.
Wow.
Okay, I see where the budget went besides Keanu's paycheck.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. And this thing is just full of all sorts of references that I was catching. And as like, I would give myself like a C plus in Sonic lore for people who had like really absorbed these games. Like I'm sure there are lots of references I missed. Like there's one bit where they're in a gun helicopter being dropped off in Tokyo to fight Shadow. And Sonic says, "What's this? No in-fight movie, and the food stinks. We're out of here." Well, that's his opening from Sonic Adventure 2, where Gun had him captured, and he said that as he was breaking out of a gun military helicopter. Another nice little reference is that in the original Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow was like the ultimate life form, but Gerald Robotnik had made a different monster that you had to fight, which was like a weird low polygon salamander dinosaur hybrid thing.
Ooh.
That's featured in the background during the scenes where Shadow and Maria are bonding, where they were watching a movie called like the Freak from Outer Space or something. It's like a bad puppet version of that monster. So if you're a Sonic fan, there are just loads of references, and I'm not going to sit here and recount all of them.
Yeah.
The other weird thing, and I was not expecting this, this thing actually is in continuity with the crappy Knuckles the Echidna show that we watched on Paramount Plus.
Okay, I was wondering about that. I was wondering if anyone had to watch that show to know anything or know what was going on.
So what's going? First off, they had kind of the evil girl, like the evil gun agent, sociopath girl.
Yeah, the British woman. Yeah,
Yeah, who kidnapped the. Am I mixing up shows? Like, didn't she kidnap some black police officer and force him to join gun or something? Or am I mixing that up with something else?
she had a partner who was black. Was a black.
Okay, I think I'm mixing it up with another show where like,
Yeah.
somebody had basically kidnapped somebody and recruited them into some sort of shadow operation.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so she was around in a few scenes.
Okay.
But like if you just thought, oh, she is a gun agent, okay, cool. You didn't need to know anything from that show. No, the weirdest part was that Knuckles goes, yes, I entrusted the Master Emerald to a mighty warrior.
Okay.
And of course, it's the dumb guy who was the main character of the Knuckles show.
Wade.
Yeah, Wade. I was the only one who had seen that among the people I've talked to about it.
Oh.
That they were like kind of confused by that because they thought that they were going to cut to Donut Lord's dog, or something. But no, like he's on the roof playing hockey by himself with the Master Emerald. But you know what? As much of a screw up as he was in his own show, it's very in keeping.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So he gets one scene. It's I'd say that having watched the Knuckles show makes that scene make slightly more sense. But if you hadn't seen it, you would just assume that, oh, Knuckles is an idiot and entrusted it to an idiot. Okay, cool. Moving on. Idris Elba is still great as Knuckles. I think it's Colleen Clinkenbeard who plays Tails.
I think that's right. Yeah.
She's unique because she's the only actual Sonic voice actor they brought in to play their character from the games. I guess it's because for Tails, where he's like a little boy, it makes sense to just have a woman voice actor who's good at little boy voices.
Yeah.
Just rather than having to keep a real celebrity around.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Yeah.
I would say that the only one who doesn't really get a great moment is Tails himself, because he is kind of second banana.
Yeah.
Even Stone, Robotnik's sidekick from the previous two movies, gets a nice send off.
Yeah, I remember that in the second movie. Yeah, that Tails really didn't have much to do.
I guess he is just player two.
Yeah,
when you get down to it.
Yeah, poor guy.
So would I recommend this if you watched the first two movies? Yes, this is arguably the best of the bunch. In fact, if you go, okay, so if you want to do like is the sisters, or excuse me, is the wife's sister around index? It's one scene and it isn't actually really her. That will make more sense if you watch it.
Okay,
but it's very brief.
All right.
So in fact, the only problem is that it kind of makes the whole 15-minute wedding subplot in Sonic 2 even less important. So
yeah,
because you kind of got the impression they were setting something up there. So on a reviewing of Sonic 2, I think you were totally within your rights to just skip any wedding scene.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Very good.
Yeah. So this basically it gives you everything you could possibly want from this movie. It's even got themes.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So moving on to man, I almost was about to trick myself into thinking this was a better movie, but I forgot that our current string of hits has kind of ended here with this one.
Yes, it has. Oh God.
Like I was just thinking, man, a few weeks ago we managed to watch Goodfellas and Unforgiven in the same week, and now here we are, reduced to this.
Yes. Yes. We watched one of the
movies of all time.
One of the movies of all time. Yes, one of the watch it with a lot of alcohol and plenty of friends, and it's more bearable.
Yeah. So the Last
Uh,
Dragon, it's weird because it's almost like somebody decided to cast themselves in a Bruce Lee self-insert fan fiction.
yeah. Wonder if that wasn't Barry Gordy, who was the executive producer on the movie.
I did a little bit of research on it because sometimes when you come across a movie that's this weirdly bad, you want
Yeah.
to like learn more about it. The screenwriter, let's see, was it Louis Finosta? Let me pull this back up again.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
it's
Whoever wrote it, like the original idea was they wanted to make a movie for themselves to star in that wasn't like him as hoodlum number 3.
oh, okay.
Which you know what, I can totally understand that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The Last Dragon was based on an original screenplay by Louis Vinosta, then a struggling young actor slash dancer who stated he was tired of being cast as gang member number 3 in every urban film made in New York.
Okay. Yeah. Um but yeah, this movie is so out there. Like I had a hard watching when as I was watching, I'm just like, okay, what am I watching here? What is even this?
Yeah, so I haven't found a lot of specifics about outside of that initial script where the hell this came from.
Yeah,
This was made by Motown Movies. I don't know if there were any other Motown movies.
yeah. I
Uh,
don't know either.
with
Yeah,
Mr. Barry Gordy himself producing,
yeah,
or at least heavily involved. Who, if you don't know, Barry Gordy was he the founder? Yeah, founder of Motown record label and its subsidiaries.
yeah.
Who produced a lot of music that you know and love. Just
Yeah.
statistically, there are multiple songs that this man is responsible for indirectly that you love.
Oh yeah, like Aretha Franklin, Smokey Robinson,
Yep.
or the Four Temptations. Yeah, just well, yeah, a lot of music, a lot of great music.
Which
Um,
explains why there's an awful lot of Motown records in this Motown movie.
yes.
Yeah.
um, so I guess we should get to the plot of the movie.
Yeah. So there's like a few threads in this thing. First off, you have our main character. Let's see, what is his name? Leroy
Leroy.
Green, played by Timac.
The entire time I hear his name. I kept thinking Leroy Jenkins.
Daniel, this is a thing that I read on Wikipedia that if it's true is going to just shock you,
Yeah.
just completely shock you. So whenever you have a movie starring a martial artist, you have two options.
Hmm?
Option one is to take somebody who is an actor and teach them some martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Option two is to take a martial artist and teach them some acting. Guess which one Timac was?
Martial artists that they try to have act.
Yep.
uh,
First movie. And boy, does it show.
man, yeah. Oh, one of the one of the most wooden and just god awful performances I've ever seen from like, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically imagine a 19-year-old black belt who's been cast in a movie as the lead actor doing his best to do a Bruce Lee impression. And that's kind of the caliber of main character acting you get here.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
see, I'd say there's like three threads in this movie. First thread is he has he and his martial arts teacher, like they open the film with him doing a kata, which I think is actually repeated twice over the credits, like the
Mhm.
exact same kata, because I was noticing some of the visual effects were being repeated.
Yeah.
Nothing but quality here, folks.
Yes.
Um, and he has achieved a level where his master says that he can't teach him anything else. So he needs to go and make his own way. Find this other teacher who can teach him more if he needs to. And when you achieve true, I forget the wording of this. Like, I'm gonna just make up something. True kung fu glory, your body will glow.
Yes.
Thread 2. There is a corrupt local music executive who is trying very hard to get his wife a music career.
Yeah, and she's kind of like a wannabe Cyndi Lauper.
Yes, and honestly, some of the better parts of this movie were the like awful sexually suggestive music videos that she was in.
Yeah.
Because like she's not an ugly woman, but she's not exactly a sex symbol either, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's like she's trying to do like a Cyndi Lauper early era Madonna type show.
Yeah.
Like I found the stuff under your bed. Like with pictures of like her flipping through a Playboy or whatever.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
And he is trying very hard to get his wife's music video played on this Soul Train type music show, which is being which is run by is Vanity the actress's name?
Yeah, Vanity. Yeah.
There's a lot of people with just one name. Okay, there's two people in this movie who are listed on IMDb as having a single name.
Yeah.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice in the same movie.
Yeah.
Playing Laura Charles, the host of this dance show.
Yeah.
And she's refusing because, well, the music video is awful. So she's going to try and so this Eddie Arcadian, this evil music executive is trying to threaten her when Leroy Green happens to show up and save the day.
Yes.
Which results in, I forgot a fourth. Actually, no, I was counting Vanity's plotline as being the second thread. Third thread is you have the real star of this movie.
Yeah.
Who is the master?
Show no.
Who is the Shogun of Harlem?
Show no.
Yeah, there is this guy who has heard everybody saying that Leroy Green was the best martial artist in town, and he wants to beat him up to prove that no, Show Nuff is the true master of Harlem.
Yeah.
And every scene he's in is great.
Yeah. Yeah, he chews the scenery. Yeah.
Played by Julius Carey, who, well, what do you know? He's a better actor because they took an actor and they taught him some martial arts.
Yeah.
like sane people making a movie.
Yes.
The only other major character that we aren't bringing up here is Richie Green, Leroy's little brother, who I thought looked familiar, but when I looked him up, like his most prominent role was as played by Lee O'Brien. His most prominent role was as Richie Green in The Last Dragon. Like, okay, I have not seen him before.
Yeah.
He's very much like he has all the person. I guess he got all the personality in the family because he's just a little wisecracker.
Yeah. That was the part of the movie that just didn't make any sense to me when you meet Leroy's family. And you see like how he talks about it, he's very, very stoic and he never uses any contractions and but then his parents and his brother are kind of like New Yorkers.
Yeah, they're just entirely ordinary.
Yeah.
I think that delivery is again him trying to be very Bruce Lee-esque.
Yeah.
It just isn't all that interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of pretty telling when Vanity is acting circles around him.
Yeah, and honestly, if she was up against somebody else, we'd be probably going, oh yeah, she's in a little wooden, but she did, did a workman-like job. Like, no, like when she was there with Leroy, she was emoting, he was not.
Yeah. Uh,
So I would say like the martial arts part of this movie are the best part. The
yeah.
parts that are like parodies of the music industry are kind of interesting, but it's very weird to have them juxtaposed with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And how they kind of all collide is kind of like just kind of thrown almost like a thrown in as an afterthought. Like, okay, well, how are we going to get all of them together? It's like, oh, okay, well, we'll just have the evil record producer and Show Enough, just get together and say, all right, can you deal with Leroy? Yeah, I'll deal with Leroy for free. Turns down a whole briefcase of cash.
Which is, a very Shogun move.
Yeah, yeah.
Now the last fight scene, apparently that was like the special effects they're using to get the glow on their two bodies, because of course he achieves the ultimate martial arts and his body glows. And Show Enough was doing a little bit of it, but in red instead of gold.
Yeah.
That was apparently one of the first times that particular effect technology was used in a movie, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, yeah, like you were saying, the martial arts scenes were pretty good. It's just I was getting really frustrated with like just the whole like it's trying to be too many things. Like it's trying to be a martial arts movie. It's trying to be like a romance movie. It's trying to be like a what do you want to call it? Like a social commentary on the record industry. It's just all this stuff going on, and it's just like even like I don't know. Even if I had like if I was drunk enough and I was watching it with friends, like I don't even know if that would have been make it more enjoyable.
Yeah, this is not the most amazing B movie out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, it commits the cardinal sin. It has lengthy sequences from Bruce Lee movies involved with it.
Yeah.
It commits the cardinal sin of don't remind people of better movies in the middle of your crappy one.
Yeah. They were playing scenes from like Enter the Dragon and his Bruce Lee's last movie. What was it called? That was the one where he's wearing the yellow jumpsuit.
Yeah, that everyone references now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's yeah.
Also, in the bit of internet research I found this. I feel like this little story about the making of the movie is very telling. Under pressure from the studio, in an effort to cut $2 million out of the budget, director Michael Schultz and screenwriter Louis Vanosta sat up in a hotel room all night rewriting the script. When Vanosta fell asleep on the hotel bed, Schultz pressed a button on the computer which deleted 40 pages of the script. When Vanosta awoke that morning, the pair spent the day recreating that material from what they could remember.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy.
Now, the source for this is 80s Movies Rewind. So it might be true, might be false.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah.
Also, apparently somebody is working on an animated movie, Rise of the Last Dragon.
Well,
which so it's interesting watching this little trailer that I can see here, because it looks like sub Netflix tier animation. Like if this was like a PS3 or early PS4 game, you'd be like, that's a pretty decent video game cutscene.
Ooh. Well,
or maybe this is a fan animation. I don't know. Yeah, this is probably a fan animation. Anyway, that's either here or there. So would we recommend this? I feel like I'm usually pretty forgiving with recommending things. I don't know that I can recommend watching the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think I can either. And you know, I have become a bit of a connoisseur of you know, good bad movies in the last, you know, 2 or 3 years. Um, but I just this one didn't do it for me.
No, your best bet is to go to YouTube and look up all the show enough scenes back to back, because
Yeah,
and the fight scene, those are the best parts.
yeah, yeah. What I thought was funny was that one scene where was shown off. He's wearing football pads, for shoulder pad that he just kind of like painted and made bigger.
I mean, the dude isn't necessarily the most financially well off. He did turn down a whole briefcase full of money.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, this movie was on Netflix, but it no longer is. I think New Year's Eve was the last day for it.
Yep.
So
So keep an eye out for it if it does sound like it's up your alley.
yeah,
I think that if you were to watch this, the alcohol plus friends plus permission to razz combo is very much necessary to enjoy this thing.
yes, yeah, indeed. Well, I think we've said all we need to say for tonight.
Indeed.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Yeah,
Indeed.
hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell, all that wonderful YouTube algorithm stuff, and we'll see you next week. Night, everybody.
Night, everyone.